They say blood is thicker than water. But I learned the hard way that greed is thicker than both. Before we continue, subscribe to Silken Real Life Revenge. Click the notification bell because we have new stories every single day. Leave a like and tell us in the comments what city you're watching from. I was 68 years old when my son decided I was better off dead. Not physically dead, you understand. Just mentally gone. Erased. A shell of a man who couldn't be trusted with his own life anymore. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because I just finished my coffee on the porch, watching the sun break over the lake. Dad, how are you feeling these days? Martin's voice was honey-sweet, concerned in a way that felt rehearsed. We hadn't spoken in 3 months. I should have known then that something was wrong. My son started visiting more after that call. He'd show up with groceries I didn't need, asking about doctor appointments I hadn't scheduled. At first, I wanted to believe he cared. That maybe losing his mother 2 years ago had finally taught him the value of family. But every smile felt calculated. Every question felt like a test. He'd ask me what year it was, who the president was, what I'd eaten for breakfast. Like he was waiting for me to fail. Like he needed me to fail. The whispers started at Murphy's Diner, my regular breakfast spot for 20 years. I was paying for my eggs when I heard Helen Morrison behind me. Poor Henry. They say his mind's going. Can't remember his own address sometimes. I froze with my wallet in my hand. Who told her that? I knew my address. I knew everything. But the damage was done. The seed was planted. And when I turned around, Helen looked at me with such pity that I wanted to scream. 2 weeks later, my family lawyer showed up at my door. Edward Langston had handled my affairs since 1995, a good man with honest eyes. But those eyes looked troubled now. Henry, your son contacted me. He's concerned about your health. He's requesting early access to certain accounts, power of attorney, that sort of thing. My hand tightened on the doorframe. What did you tell him? Edward shifted uncomfortably. I told him we'd need medical documentation. But Henry, if there's something you're not telling me, there's nothing, I said firmly. My mind is perfectly fine. Martin insisted I take a medical evaluation. Just to be safe, Dad. Just so we know everything's okay. He drove me to the clinic himself, held my arm like I was fragile. I passed every test. Memory, cognition, problem solving. The doctor said I had the mental sharpness of someone 20 years younger. Martin's face fell when he heard the results. Actually fell. That's when I knew for certain. My son didn't want me to be okay. He needed me to be sick. I found the falsified report by accident. Martin had left his briefcase in my living room, and when I picked it up to set it aside, papers spilled out. There it was. A medical document with my name on it, stamped by a clinic I'd never visited. Patient shows early signs of dementia and confusion. Recommend immediate family oversight of financial decisions. The signature belonged to Dr. Patricia Brennan, a physician I'd never met. My hands shook as I photographed every page with my phone. My son had forged my mental death certificate. That night, I sat in the living room with a photo of my late wife, Caroline. She smiled at me from the frame, frozen at 53, 10 years younger than I was now. You'd be ashamed of him, Carrie, I whispered. Our boy. The one we raised, to be honest. I thought about the Martin we'd raised. The kid who cried when he accidentally broke his sister's toy. The teenager who worked 2 jobs to help pay for college. Where did that boy go? When did he become this? I made a decision then. I wouldn't fight him with anger. I'd fight him with truth. I started playing the fool. Forgetting names on purpose. Asking what day it was. Leaving my keys in strange places where Martin would find them. Dad, your keys were in the refrigerator, he'd say, barely hiding his excitement. Were they? Oh my. I don't remember putting them there. Each mistake I faked made him more confident. more certain that his plan was working. He stopped being careful around me. Started making phone calls in the next room that I could hear perfectly. That's when I learned about the debts. The gambling. The money he owed to people who didn't accept excuses. Martin organized a family dinner in April. My sister Ruth came, my nephew Kevin, a few cousins I barely saw anymore. Martin stood at the head of my table like he owned it and raised a glass. I want to toast to Dad. To honoring his legacy while he's still with us, to appreciate it. Everyone looked at me with sad eyes. They thought I was dying. Martin had told them all. After dinner, Ruth pulled me aside. Henry, if you need help, if things are getting confusing. I'm fine, Ruth. She patted my hand like I was a child. Of course you are, honey. The next morning, I called Edward Langston. I need to update my will, I told him. Of course, Henry. What changes would you like to make? I'd thought about this all night. Martin wanted my money, my house, everything I'd built in 40 years of teaching and careful saving. He wanted it so badly he was willing to destroy me for it. I want to establish a trust, I said. The Caldwell Education Trust. Every cent I have goes towards scholarships for students who can't afford college. Full rides, Edward. As many as the money allows. There was silence on the other end. Then, Henry, are you sure? What about Martin? Martin gets exactly what he's earned, I said. Nothing. I started recording our conversations. My phone sat in my shirt pocket during every visit, every call. Modern technology is wonderful for old men who supposedly can't work their own phones. The best recording came in early May. Martin and his wife, Stephanie, were in my kitchen. They thought I was napping upstairs. How much longer do you think? Stephanie asked. The doctor said it could be months, maybe a year. But the report gives us what we need now. Once I get power of attorney, Martin, I still don't feel right about this. We're $50,000 in debt, Steph. $50,000. The house alone is worth $400,000. We need this. I scheduled another appointment with my regular doctor, Dr. Hensley. Martin insisted on coming. In the examination room, I played my part perfectly. Doctor, it's good to see you again. Dr. Hensley smiled gently. Henry, I'm Dr. Hensley. We've known each other for 15 years. I let confusion cross my face. Of course. I'm sorry, Martin. Martin's eyes lit up. Dad, I'm not Martin. I'm your son. This is the doctor. I watched my son struggle to hide his smile. It's happening faster than I thought, he told Dr. Hensley. Is there anything we can do? Dr. Hensley looked at me with concern. But I winked at her when Martin wasn't looking. She was my doctor. She knew the truth. In June, Martin made his boldest move. He tried to sell my lakefront property without telling me. 2 acres I'd bought in 1982 for $40,000, now worth close to $1 million. The notary called me directly, confused. Mr. Caldwell, your son is here with paperwork to sell your land. But the signature doesn't quite match our records. I kept my voice calm. Please proceed with the sale. Just make sure my son gets exactly what's coming to him. The notary paused. Sir, are you certain you understand? I understand perfectly. Continue. Martin never knew that call happened. He thought the notary's concerns were routine. I wrote a letter to Edward Langston, sealed it, and gave him specific instructions. Open this only at the family meeting. Not before. No matter what Martin tells you, no matter what documents he shows you. Edward studied me carefully. Henry, I've known you for 30 years. Your mind is sharp as ever, isn't it? I smiled. Sharp enough to know when I'm being buried alive. Inside that envelope was everything. The recordings. The forged medical report. The attempted property sale. Copies of Martin's gambling debts. A full psychological evaluation I'd gotten independently, proving my perfect mental health. And the truth about why I was doing this. In July, I announced I was moving into Riverside Care Home. Martin couldn't believe his luck. "Dad, are you sure? I mean, if you think that's best, I do. I can't manage this house anymore." "You were right about everything, son." His smile was pure relief. He helped me pack, humming to himself as he boxed up 40 years of my life. But Riverside wasn't a care home. It was my friend Walter's vacation house. Walter had moved to Arizona and was happy to let me use it. The address looked official enough. Martin never checked. He was too busy calculating his inheritance. Martin threw a dinner party in August. A farewell celebration, he called it. He invited everyone again. Ruth, Kevin, neighbors, old teaching colleagues. He gave a speech that made my skin crawl. My father taught me about responsibility, about family, about doing what's right even when it's hard. Now it's my turn to take care of him, to handle his affairs with the same integrity he showed me. Everyone applauded. I clapped once, slowly, watching my son bask in praise for betraying me. The storm was coming. He just didn't know it yet. The envelope arrived at Martin's house on a Monday morning. Inside was a letter from Edward Langston requesting his presence at the reading of my updated will. "This is it," Martin told Stephanie. I knew because he called me immediately after. "Dad, I got a letter from your lawyer. Did you update your will?" I let my voice shake. "Did I? I don't remember. Everything's so confusing now." "It's okay, Dad. I'll handle everything. You just rest." He thought he'd won. He thought the game was over. He had no idea it was just beginning. The conference room at Langston and Associates was full. Martin sat beside me, wearing his best suit. Ruth and Kevin were there. So were a few board members from the school district where I'd worked. Edward stood at the head of the table with a laptop. Before we begin, Henry asked me to play a video he recorded. Martin shifted uncomfortably. "Is that really necessary?" "Yes," I said firmly. It was the first clear, strong thing I'd said in months. Edward pressed play. My face filled the screen, recorded just 2 weeks ago. "If you're watching this," my recorded voice began, "it means the truth has been buried too long. And it's time to dig it up." The video played for 20 minutes. Every recording. Every conversation. Martin's voice bragging about the forged report. His plans to sell my property. His gambling debts. The bribes he'd paid. The lies he'd spread. Then came my independent psychological evaluation, showing perfect mental health. Dr. Hensley's testimony about Martin's attempts to convince her I was incompetent. The notary's statement about the forged signatures. By the time it ended, Martin was white as paper. Stephanie had her hand over her mouth. Ruth was crying. "Martin," I said quietly, "did you think I was too old to notice? Too confused to fight back?" Edward opened the will. His voice was steady as he read. "I, Henry Caldwell, being of sound mind and body, do hereby establish the Caldwell Education Trust. All assets, including property, savings, and investments totaling approximately $1,200,000, shall be transferred to this trust. The trust will provide full scholarships to students who demonstrate financial need and academic potential." He paused. "To my son, Martin Caldwell, I leave $1. The price of his honesty." Martin stood up so fast his chair fell over. "This is insane. He's not in his right mind." "The will isn't valid. The will is completely valid," Edward said. "As is the report I'm filing with the police regarding forgery and fraud." The fallout was immediate. Martin tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. The police opened an investigation. His name appeared in local news. Former teacher's son accused of elder fraud. His friends stopped calling. Stephanie filed for divorce 3 weeks later. The people he owed money to came calling, and Martin had nothing to give them. He lost his job, his apartment. Everything unraveled just like he'd planned for my life to unravel. Karma doesn't need help. It just needs time. He showed up at my door in October. I was back in my house, the one he'd tried to sell. He looked terrible. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, 20 pounds lighter. Dad, please. I made a mistake. I was desperate. I just wanted to secure our future. I stood in the doorway, not letting him in. You wanted to secure your future. By ending mine. I didn't mean, you forged medical documents. You told everyone I was losing my mind. You tried to steal my home. What part of that wasn't meant? His face crumpled. I'm your son. Yes, I said. You are. And that makes it so much worse. I closed the door. No yelling. No final speech. Just silence. Sometimes silence is the loudest justice. Through the window, I watched him walk back to his car. He sat there for 10 minutes, head on the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to open the door. To forgive him because that's what fathers do. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed and plotted against, knew that forgiveness without consequences isn't love. It's enabling. Martin needed to learn that actions have weight. That you can't fake your way through life. That some mistakes can't be undone with apologies. The first scholarship ceremony was held in November. 23 students stood on stage at Riverside High School, my old school. 23 kids who wouldn't have to choose between education and survival. I sat in the front row, watching their faces light up as they received their acceptance letters. A girl named Maya hugged her mother and cried. A boy named Jordan shook my hand so hard I thought my arm would fall off. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. You changed my life. This was my real inheritance. Not money passed from father to son, but opportunity passed to those who'd actually earn it. I visit Caroline's grave every Sunday. It's become my routine. I bring fresh flowers and tell her about the week. I kept my promise, Carrie, I whispered last week. I didn't let him destroy what we built. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, I swear I felt her hand on my shoulder. Martin sent me a letter last month. I haven't opened it. Maybe I will someday. Maybe I won't. But for the first time in years, I'm finally at peace. Because I learned something important at 68 years old. You can fake a will. You can forge a signature. You can even convince people someone's mind is gone. But you can't fake a legacy. That has to be earned. And Martin. He earned exactly what he got.